Okay, we're live. We're live. Hey, folks, this is RotorStorm331. We're back to doing some um, another reattempt of the Spider-Man guide. I think I screwed up a little bit way too much on last night, describing things, namely Spider-Man's bio, among other things. So I wanted to do a redo of the guide. Hopefully this one will be a little bit more simpler and not as bad. So anyway, this is the Spider-Man guide for Marvel superheroes, and we're gonna get both of our Spider-Mans. We've already selected the scalpel of the Daily Bugle as our stage, so we're gonna get started. So anyway, Spider-Man is pretty much our go-to Shoto, or close to a Shoto in this game. He basically has all of your typical Shoto means, having a Fireball, Dragon Punch, Tatsu, in this case Web Swing, and of course he also has the unique command grab of Web Throw. But for the most part, Spider-Man is pretty easy to pick up in terms of gameplay, pretty basic. And not to mention, he's probably got some of the most devastating air combos, infinites in the entire game. And he is actually one of the more serious threats to most people in general. So basically, we're going to be covering all of Spider-Man's basics, namely his movement, his normals, his throws, his specials, and supers. So before we go into that, we're gonna cover his miscellaneous stuff. Spider-Man earns up. For those of you that never read comics, Spider-Man is pretty much was used to be a normal teenager before Peter Parker was bitten by a radioactive spider. So basically, ever since his uncle Ben died, due to his irresponsibleness of not stopping the thief that claimed his uncle's life, he's been taking his duties as a superhero a lot more serious in general. He's also struggled to have a daily life, among other things, and in some cases, people closest to him also get get affected, either becoming his worst enemies or his best allies. So we're going to be that'll be putting a stop to the discussion about Spider-Man's brief bio. So we're going to go ahead and get started with his movement first. So this is basically his movement. He has actually pretty decent walk speed. Of course, Spider-Man doesn't appear that way. He's actually more taller than he appears. If you're familiar playing Guilty Gear's Baldhead slash Faust, he's a very tall character as well, and usually crouches down for most of the time. This is not to say Spider-Man's a pretty tall character, but anyway, you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. But anyway, this is his jump speed. It comes down pretty quickly. It's pretty good jumping ability. This is basically his super jump. You do have a little bit of control on your start up of the flight, but once you start coming down, you'll start dedicating towards which way you want to go. So you want to use back and forth to keep your character moving around, and this can also be useful in tricking enemies into basically falling into air combo traps and whatnot. Spider-Man is one of the few characters that can do it in Infinite, of course, but that's not going to be covered in this guide, unfortunately. Now that we covered his super jump, he does have a triangle jump, of course, in which he'll jump. If you jump backwards and then move up forward, he'll cling to a wall and then jump forward. That could be useful to get out of the corner or go on the offense if needs be. But technically, you're going to be using it to get the heck away from your opponents or try to get a further jump attack in general. So anyway, that covers Spider-Man's movement. So now we're going to cover his normals. So before we do his normals, we'll cover his special gem, which is Power Gem. So basically, when he uses Power Gem, he'll create a clone that appears on the opponent's side. So even though even though it appears to be doing damage, it actually doesn't do anything other than apply more damage. So basically, the clone is just meant to deceive opponents, and basically you still deal the same amount of more damage when you use the power gem, of course. So now that we cover the Power Gem special with Spider-Man, let's go over ahead and cover his norms. So this is his light punch, comes out pretty fast out of all his punches. And this it also does the same thing as crouching. And this is also his aerial air jab. So we're going to do that again, this time with on the opponent. So he has no unique commands with the light punch, so we're going to move on to the medium punch. So this is Spider-Man's medium, standing medium. This is basically his launcher, go-to launcher, and it has very high priority. So if anyone tries to get over Spider-Man, he can easily pop this, and he gets way higher priority. It allows him to pretty much pop enemies up. And you can pretty much set up an air combo pretty quickly. Like this. And this is his crouching medium punch. Not really useful, but it's pretty useful in the three-string jab, like here. Crouching chain, that is. And then this is his aerial mid-punch. This is only usable against air opponents. This will not hit ground opponents. Except if you're fighting a tall character like Magneto, Juggernaut, or Blackheart. So we're going to showcase each of the damage up close. So anyway, that covers the medium punch. Now we're going to go into the heavy punch. So heavy punch allows Spider-Man to deal overhead haymaker, as you can see right here. It has pretty darn good range, almost to near sweep range, but still you need to get up close. The jumping heavy is also another favorite attack for most players, and this is his crouching heavy, which allows him to thrust his elbow. So here we go again, up close. So again, there's no unique commands for any of Spider-Man's punches. So now that covers his heavy punch. Now we're going straight into the kick, starting with the light kick. So this is basically Spider-Man's light kick. This also acts as a good way to launch opponents and set up air combos as well. And this is his aerial light kick. And that can also be used to chain to his medium. Soon if you can land the hits. Okay, now we do this up close. So that covers his light kicks. Now we're going to cover his medium kicks. So this is a medium kick. Now if you have the time gem with Spider-Man and activated, you can do but technically, the general ideal is to pretty much dash right after you do the right after the medium kick, and just keep repeating it until you can keep them trapped in the infinite right there until the time gem runs out. But technically, this actually has a pretty darn good range. This is a crouching medium, and that's actually on its own. It's a small mini launcher, but combined with the heavy kick, as you'll see right here, this actually sets up as a secondary launcher for Spider-Man to use. So basically, you can use that as your secondary option outside the medium punch. And this is his aerial mid kick. Also used as anti-air or on the way down. Now we're going to show you up close. All right, so that concludes the medium kick coverage. So now we're going into the heavy kick coverage. So this is his heavy kick standing. This basically acts as more of an anti-air as opposed to a launcher. Again, as I showed you with the medium kick, you can do this and then go straight into standing heavy kick and launch your opponents through there. But for the most part, you'll use that as your go-to anti-air for countering enemies. And this is his crouching heavy kick. It has pretty darn good sweep range. I'm not going to lie. You can be right here and still hit your opponents. So yeah. As you can definitely tell from this position right here, you can basically still sweep your enemies from this position, but it won't cover all of it. But you can definitely set up some and do that combo as shown on the demos, which is pretty good. That's actually the first time I actually did that. In all honesty. But anyway, that covers. Now we cover his aerial heavy kick. So this is like the heavy punch. This also acts as a pretty good ender, and this can also hit opponents on OTG, which is off the ground. So if they're on the ground when you do this, this will set them up for this, and you can get another air combo started, and that's one of the keys to triggering Spider-Man's Infinites. So anyway, that covers pretty much all of his kicks. Now we're going to go over his throws. So Spider-Man's throws are linked to his punches, which is his medium and heavy. This is the medium punch version. This allows him to throw his opponents overhead. And you can also change the direction depending on your direction you're holding them in the medium punch button. And this is his heavy throw version, which allows him to perform a somersault while throwing the opponent down. This one's actually a lot more easier to pull than it is with the medium punch one, and it also acts as his aerial throw, and that can also be performed with either the heavy punch or the medium punch. So that now covers all of his throws. We're going to now start covering his specials. So the first special we're going to cover, of course, for the move list is, of course, Web Ball. So Web Ball is Spider-Man's projectile attack. When it hits the opponent will be temporarily trapped in webbing. So this allows you to set up some air combos or whatever combo you want. And of course, it doesn't matter which strength you perform. You're basically going to deal roughly around 7 to 8 damage for the most part. Ironically, in most fighting games, when you do the light punch projectile versions, it comes out the slowest, whereas the heavy punch version comes out more faster. In Spider-Man's case, it's a lot different. Instead, it's the light punch that comes out more faster, whereas the heavy punch version comes out the slowest. Now, Web Ball can also be performed in the air as well. This also makes it a pretty good defense tool. So if any enemies are trying to play keep away, you can actually mix your options up. You can even do it either from backwards jump, neutral jump, or forward jump. So it gives you plenty of options to fire web balls and set up some pretty nasty tricks. But this can also be used in air combos if you're very good at doing them with Spider-Man. Of course, I won't be able to do it, so I'm not going to showcase it on this, unfortunately. So the next move we're going to cover on his specials is Spider Sting. Now, in later crossover games between Marvel and Capcom, Spider-Man got pretty ridiculously nerfed. He got new supers and some new stuff, but overall, his overall strength got nerfed. Part of the reason I think is from the Infinites, and another factor to take into consideration, of course, is probably his Dragon Punch being Spider Sting. Spider Sting is basically your Dragon Punch, and depending on your strength, he'll go short or further, depending the strength that you decide to use it on. Now, one of the things that makes the Spider Sting more dangerous, though, isn't just the power of it. It's basically because it also lets you do an overhead smash after it when you press the punch after the height of the attack. And as you can see here, the damage is ridiculous each time you perform different strengths. So even light punch damage is pretty decent, almost to 20. You're almost at 27 or so with the medium. And of course, you're basically going to get 33 on with both hits with heavy. So yeah, Spider Sting really makes Spider-Man a very difficult opponent to do, because all he has to do is fire web balls to trick opponents and then go straight into Spider Sting. And this actually makes Spider-Man a very, very frightening opponent to deal with on single-player arcade mode, at least in my personal experience, because not only does he block pretty well, he punishes opponents that do try to jump over him and get punished in turn. So anyway, that covers Spider Sting. So now we're going to cover his web swing next, the iconic move that he uses in comics to get around the city. So this basically acts as his Tatsu, and depending on the version that you perform, it also determines the range of the swing. So when you perform a light version, you pretty much go halfway. You almost make it with medium. And then performing heavy will let you swing all the way to hitting your opponent. Now, it is possible to perform the light kick version as a combo ender for air combos. So that's also something that you take in consideration. This can also be used as an escape or pursuit tool as well, because you can also use this. So if you got opponents that are locking onto you, going wherever, you can use the web swing to get across and easily catch up to your opponent and play some mind games as well as intercept enemy attacks with it as well. So this gives Spider-Man plenty of air mobility as well as coverage when he needs to deal with enemies trying to go in the air, for the most part. And of course, your strength also determines the amount of damage you deal with the move, as you can see right here. So anyway, that covers web swing. Now we're going to cover web throw next. So web throw is basically Spider-Man's command grab. Now, at far distance, this appears as a mere projectile. But when you do it up close, you basically get your you basically swing around your opponent. Now, there is a way to get more swings out of web throw, but it's very hard to do. So if you know more about that than I do, please let me know in the comments, because this is going to be on YouTube, and I would like to know how that you can get more swings out of that, or if it even increases damage in general. But anyway, Spider-Man has 3 different web throws. I can only showcase 2 of them, because I do know the upright version can hit close range if you're up close. So the medium range fires at a 45-degree angle. This is good for anyone trying to jump at Spider-Man. Now, if I can get the upward. So the heavy punch version allows Spider-Man to fire it upwards. So that's good if your opponent tries to go for cross-ups. So anyway, that pretty much covers the web throw. Hang on one second real quick. So anyway, that covers the web throw. Now, there is one thing I forgot to mention, and I keep doing this for some odd reason. Spider Sting is not only one of his more powerful attacks, this also acts as his infinity counter. So if you're blocking attacks and move back, down, and any of his punches, he will trigger the Spider Sting to get out, get temporal invincibility and retaliate in return. So that was my fault for not mentioning that during coverage of Spider Sting, of course. So now we're coming down to the last of Spider-Man's moves, which is, of course, Maximum Spider. So Maximum Spider, of course, is Spider-Man's only super. And basically, if you're familiar playing Cammy in X-Men vs. Street Fighter, she has Killer Bee Assault, where she will roll up to the upper wall and then fire herself off, and once she succeeds in landing the hit, she'll do a barrage of hits before finishing with a throw. Of course, Spider-Man does not do that here. So basically, when he goes for Maximum Spider, he'll basically lock onto the opponent and basically do a barrage of hits until he hits up to 5 hits in general. So basically, there is one thing to keep in mind when you're performing Maximum Spire. You actually have control as to which direction Spider-Man will go. So as you can see here, I did upright and forward. Now I'm doing forward right. Now you cannot fire it up or down. You can, however, fire anywhere between down right, down upright, or up or just regular right. So basically, you can do Maximum Spire, and this is probably one of his biggest damage tools. One cool thing about performing Maximum Spire is that this can be done during any of Spider-Man's jumps. You can do it during his backward jump, his neutral, or even during a forward jump, and you can basically try to use that as a psych out tool. Now, unfortunately, you can't do the Maximum Spire at the height of the. Well, actually, never mind. You can, but you should only do that if your opponents are going to go into the air. But this could also be done during the height of the jump. There we go. But that's not always going to be the case. But basically, during any of his normal jumps, you can basically use Maximum Spire. But if there is a rare occasion that your opponent if your opponent does try to go for super jumping and meet you in the air, you can also do this and set them up for Maximum Spire damage as well. So anyway, that covers my guide for Spider-Man. I hope everyone enjoyed the guide. Sorry if I'm not a very good talker and tend to mess up a whole lot, but I'm hoping anyone that does view this video will get some knowledge out of it and encourages newcomers and beginners alike to get into this very cool game. This game is available currently on the Marvel vs. Capcom collection that's currently out on most systems, namely the Switch, PS5, Xbox, and I think PS4. I might be wrong. But anyway, be sure to check this game out. This is a very fun game in general, not to mention the usage of gems and whatnot. But anyway, that concludes this guide. Wolverine will be the last one we do for the last of the 8 playable characters for Marvel superheroes. I might do guides for Doctor Doom, Anita, and Thanos at a later date, but it's probably not going to be right now. But anyway, expect the Wolverine guide to be set up around Friday and probably posted on YouTube. I will send this to YouTube eventually, probably right after I get done streaming Joe and Mac, which will be live around 6 p.m., which is almost a half an hour from now. So anyway, I'm RotorStorm331 signing off. You have a great day. Take care. And I will see you all later in a half an hour or so for Joe and Mac. So have a great day.